what actually happened was when Keith was diagnosed with ALS, I had two separate friends introduce me to two ALS widows that were
Ah,
like in their
okay.
40s at the time. So that was so beneficial. And I remember talking to them and just being like, "Oh my gosh, I know you must just be nodding, your head thinking, oh, honey, you know nothing." And me, I'm like devastated because I'm talking to widows knowing that I'll be like them someday, knowing that they were once like me. And that was
Yeah.
that was tough. But it was largely beneficial. What I found in caregiving groups was a lot of support. That's where you learn all the life hacks. The medical community didn't have any real answers of what it was like to live with ALS. They didn't know about
Mm,
rotating beds. They didn't know about cough assist devices. Nobody showed me how to use a Hoyer lift. I put a video to watch how to use a Hoyer lift. So meeting with other ALS widows
really?
was hugely important. And now I'm one of those ALS widows where I've had a psychiatrist reach out to me to talk to someone who was a new wife with a husband that was diagnosed recently. Actually, one of my clients and a close friend of mine was actively trying to meet me. She had heard about me.
Yeah.
So we went out to dinner quite a lot. She was me, but just 4 years behind me. Her kids were about the same ages, that mine were when diagnosis hit. I mean, just so many similarities. And I met with her several times. You know, when I have skilled hands and I didn't have any medical training. I
Right.
feel like, gosh, I'm lucky I passed biology. I'm not good at this stuff. And Keith's doctor even said, he's like, "Oh, Meg, you're the best caregiver we ever saw." And I'm like, no, no, no. Best
Oh,
advocate, maybe. Caregiver, absolutely not. Like, I'm not a professional
yes.
tiny wiper. Just it was a
Oh,
lot.
no.
Like, I loved my husband and I wanted him dry, warm, and fed, right? And a lot of the time it was me doing the heavy lifting, quote unquote, right? For real, heavy lifting. And my son. So
But having to
uh
figure all of that out pretty much on your own,
mhm.
that's
Oh yeah, I
terrifying.
mean,
That's
yeah,
terrifying.
the durable medical equipment guy came by and dropped off a Patterson's medical book, and it is as big as the yellow pages. And I had to flip through as if, like, what is this just buying a bath chair. You can't buy a regular bath chair. I had to get the tilted VIP Ocean-Matic $4,000 bath chair and potty chair. Like, what's going to fit? What's going to work? We had to buy a handicap accessible van. We had to modify our home. I mean,
Yes.
just so much. So if anyone's in the process of buying a home, for the love of God, please make your doorways 36 inches. It's
So they don't
it's
have any patient advocate or somebody to just kind of walk through. Do they have somebody kind of
so
assigned to you that can help
yeah,
you?
the ALS Association does a pretty good job in some states. Unfortunately, in my state, really nobody there was even touched with ALS, and
Mhm.
which is very unusual, to work in a nonprofit sector and not actually have impact that was close to you. They did, but it was like, oh yeah, my best friend from high school had this disease. Well, then you don't know what the everyday living is
No.
like. You might have gone and done the Tuesdays with Maury thing and sat by their side and kept them company and chatted with them, but did you ever toilet them? Right. So,
Yeah.
no holds bar, but like Keith and I had to have conversations like, I don't want my daughter toileting you. I don't think it's right that the first penis she touches is her father's, right? So
Oh,
Bruce and I did
yeah.
that, right? I mean, luckily as a male, it's a lot easier because you've got those little plastic urinals and we both had to pick up his penis and drop it in the urinal so he could pee and not wet
Yeah.
himself. So but we openly had some really awkward and weird conversations. And so when I take that to my professional life of serving caregivers and widows, and again, I'm being really graphic, but it tells me that they're a caregiver, it's like talking to the mom of a newborn baby. Have they spit up and it was in your hair and you didn't even notice it till you went to sleep at night, right? Like this
Yeah.
is, what it's like to wipe your loved one's tush, right? You know what it's like to kind of be covered in urine, feces, whatever it is, just all the things like a big reason why I didn't go into medical. I don't like body fluids.
Oh, Megan,
So,
God, I
so
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is, that is so difficult. And I know you can look back now and you can like reach that hand back and help other people. As you were
Hmm.
going through it, what were some things that kind of helped you get through? I mean, that is a 24/7 job.
Hmm.
So, were you able to take some time for yourself? Were you able to step away? How did you manage that? Just taking care of yourself, because we're talking about
Yeah,
four
so we
years.
had, yeah, we had a very, our family was young going through this. ALS is one of the fast passes on to Medicare through disability. And so through Medicare, we had some help, but I also had some consultation with the Center for Medicare Advocacy, which is a nonprofit organization out of Connecticut. Doesn't matter where it is because Medicare is a federal program. And they actually coached me and said, you need to say you're not the primary caregiver, that there is no primary caregiver in this home. And they're like, by definition, do you have to work? And I said, yes. Like I had to work. I had to keep our household afloat. And then I have two kids that are three-season athletes and and travel ball and all that kind of stuff. And we were able to do it, but we did it with a lot of help. I always say, like, we had everything else going for us. We had really good neighbors that were super supportive. We put our family room out in the garage. We live in North Carolina, so anytime the garage door was open, people were walking by, they'd stop in and see Keith. So it was it was social,
Yeah.
it was doable a lot because we did have a lot of help and support. Not enough. I always coach caregivers and even fresh widows. Don't, don't accept the platitude of, oh, call me when you need anything. Just say, oh, I have a list of 5 things right here. Are you able to do this, that, or the other thing?
Yes.
Which would you like to help with? Like,
Yes.
have a list of 5 things. If it's even just, can you take my daughter to soccer on this day because I have a meeting?
Oh
Or,
God, yeah.
you know, will you trim the hedges? Whatever it is, just have that list of 5 things and have it be a variety where somebody's going to say yes to at least something.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is one thing that so many widows struggle with is asking for the help and thinking that you can do it all. And you cannot be in two places at one time, bringing your daughter here and having to do this and having a meeting and working and all of it. So
Yep.
I love that idea of a list. I mean, maybe even put it on Facebook or something like, if anybody wants to help me, this is what I need this week. I don't know, something like that. I like
Well,
that.
they
Put
always say,
just
like,
put
I
it out
mean,
there.
we had 2 guys from our church community that wanted to do home visits, and they came and hung out with my husband and it was Tuesday. So like
Okay,
Tuesdays with
yeah.
Lori. It
Mhm.
was a Tuesday afternoon. My son, his senior year, he had an AP class that only met every other Tuesday. So my son was part of this group. It was like just hanging out with the guys, everybody talking about their glory days that my son was like in the moment experiencing their
Yeah.
varsity sports and all of their heydays.
Oh,
So funny. But
that's so
when
awesome.
you think about it, like your church communities, even your neighbors, they're
Um,
looking to give back. People like volunteering and they like helping. So but I do also understand how hard it is to ask. And it was hard
yeah.
for us. I mean, our house was like a revolving door of caregivers. I mean, it was easy to have 6 people in and out of our house on a daily basis.
Wow. Wow. But to have that support and that guidance,
Mhm.
at least with Medicare and what to say and what to put or whatever, like that's huge.
It was.